At 2 in the morning, a wealthy man came downstairs for a glass of water and froze in the doorway. A pregnant woman knelt on his marble floor, scrubbing. Her hands trembled. Her wrists were ringed with bruises. He almost turned away. Then she looked up, a small scar on her forehead, and his world stopped. The childhood friend he thought he had lost forever was here, broken, and she did not recognize him. What he did next changed everything. His name was Green Bennett, and for the better part of 3 years he had not allowed himself to be surprised by anything inside his own house. The mansion sat at the end of a private drive in the Bloomfield Hills suburb of Detroit, 15,000 square feet of glass and pale stone that he had bought because his wife once said she wanted a kitchen with morning light. Camille had never seen the morning light in this kitchen. Neither had their daughter Sophie. The accident on Telegraph Road had taken them both before the closing papers were signed, and Green had moved into the house alone with a single suitcase and a habit of working until his hands forgot how to shake. 3 years later, the second-floor hallway still held a door he never opened. Sophie's room. The handle had a thin film of dust on it now, and he kept it that way on purpose. Some men built monuments. He kept a doorknob. That was the man who came down the back staircase at 2 in the morning looking for a glass of water and stopped instead at the edge of the kitchen tile because someone was on her hands and knees in front of his island. She was scrubbing in slow circles, the kind of slow circles a person makes when her body has already given up, but her pride has not. A pail of gray water sat beside her. Her hair was pulled back with a rubber band that had given up its color a long time ago. The swell of her stomach pressed against the rim of the bucket every time she leaned forward, and Green, who had not let himself look directly at a pregnant woman in 3 years, looked away on instinct. He almost retreated up the stairs. He had a contract with the cleaning service that handled the night rotations, and the contract specified that he was not to interact with the staff. The woman scrubbing his floor was not his to address. She was a line item. Then she lifted her head to wipe sweat from her temple, and the kitchen light caught a small pale scar above her left eyebrow, no longer than the nail of a child's thumb. Green felt the air leave the room. He knew that scar. He had watched it bleed on a summer evening on Marlborough Street in 1992, when a bigger boy from the next block had pushed her into the corner of a folding table because she would not give up a quarter. He had been 10 years old, and he had jumped on the boy's back like a wild animal, and afterward he had sat with her on the steps of her grandmother's porch while she pressed an old dishcloth to her forehead and tried not to cry. He had told her in the serious voice 10-year-old boys use exactly once in their lives that he would never let anyone hurt her again. 2 summers later, his father took a maintenance job in Atlanta, and the family moved in 3 days. He had written her a letter the first month, then a second. The third was returned unopened with a stranger's handwriting on the envelope, informing him that the Carter family no longer lived at that address. 23 years. 23 years, and Naomi Carter was on her hands and knees on his kitchen floor. She still had not seen him. She kept her eyes pointed at the tile, the trained gaze of a person who has been told 1,000 times not to make the homeowner uncomfortable. Her sleeves had ridden up while she scrubbed, and Green saw what the sleeves had been hiding. A ring of bruising around the left wrist, 4 neat ovals where fingers had been. Older yellow shadows underneath from a grip that had come before. On the right wrist, a thinner mark, the kind a hand leaves when it twists. The pregnancy looked far along. 7 months, maybe more. She moved like a woman carrying 2 kinds of weight. He should have said something. He should have said her name. Instead, he stood in the doorway and felt 23 years collapse into a single helpless minute, and he understood with a clarity that frightened him that if he spoke her name now and she said back, "I'm sorry, sir, do I know you?" he would not survive the answer. So he stepped back into the dark of the hall before she could look up, and he climbed the stairs without his glass of water. And he sat on the edge of his unmade bed for a long time with his hands pressed flat against his knees. By 6 in the morning, the cleaning crew had gone. Green was in his study with a cup of black coffee and the contract from Brightline Janitorial open on his laptop. He found her in the staff manifest on the 3rd page. Naomi Carter. Date of hire 14 months ago. Address listed as a weekly rate motel on 8 Mile. No emergency contact. He read the line 3 times. The bruises were not from a fall. The bruises were from a hand. He had grown up in a neighborhood where men taught their daughters to lie about that kind of mark, and he had grown into a man who could read a wrist the way other men read a balance sheet. There was a knock at the study door. Eleanor Hayes came in with the 2nd pot of coffee, without being asked the same quiet ritual she had kept since the week after the funeral. She was 62 and built like a woman who had survived things she did not discuss, and Green had hired her as a housekeeper 4 months after losing his family, because she was the only person in the interview line who had not looked at him with pity. She had looked at him instead like a woman who knew exactly how long grief took and was prepared to wait. "You didn't sleep," she said. It was not a question. "There's a woman on the night crew," he answered. "Carter, Naomi Carter. The pregnant one. You've seen her. I leave her a sandwich on Tuesdays and Fridays. She doesn't always eat it, but the wrapper is gone by the time I come back, so I figure she takes it with her." Eleanor set the coffee down. "She has a man problem. You can tell." "I can tell." Green turned the laptop toward her, but Eleanor did not look at it. She looked at him. "What are you going to do, Green?" He had not been called Green by anyone in this house since Camille. Eleanor used the name once or twice a year when she wanted his attention. "I'm going to call Brightline," he said, "and I'm going to ask them to assign her to this house exclusively. 3 nights a week. I'll pay double the rate." Eleanor's expression did not move, but something behind her eyes did. "Double the rate. She needs hours. She needs them somewhere safe. If she's coming here 3 nights a week, she isn't being sent to some office downtown where I can't see who walks in behind her." "And what are you going to tell her?" "Nothing yet." Green. "Eleanor." The two of them held the room for a long moment, the unspoken weight of 3 years between them. "I knew her," he said finally. "When I was a boy, before Atlanta. We grew up 2 doors down from each other on Marlborough Street. I made her a promise once, and then my father got a job and we left in 3 days, and I never saw her again." Eleanor lowered herself into the leather chair across from his desk without asking. "And now she's on your kitchen floor." "And now she's on my kitchen floor." "And she didn't know you. I've put on 40 pounds and a beard since I was 12, Eleanor, and she keeps her head down when she works. They train them to keep their heads down." Eleanor watched him for a long stretch without speaking. "You understand what you're doing," she said at last. "You understand that a woman who has been hit does not believe a stranger who offers her something for free." "I'm not a stranger. To her, you are. Right now, you are a rich man in a big house, and rich men in big houses are the 2nd most dangerous thing in her life. So you walk slow. You hear me? You don't hand her anything she didn't ask for. You don't put your name on a kindness. You let her think it is the company being generous, and you let her keep her dignity, because that is the only thing that man hasn't taken yet. I hear you. You owe her the lie until she is ready for the truth. I owe her more than that." Eleanor reached across the desk and put her hand on top of his. Her palm was warm and dry, and had been doing this kind of work for longer than he had been alive. "Then start with the lie," she said, "and earn the truth." She was at the door when he spoke again. "Eleanor," she turned. "I made her a promise when we were 10 years old. I told her I wouldn't let anyone hurt her again. And then your daddy got a job. And then my daddy got a job." Eleanor nodded once slow. "Well," she said, "he is not getting another one, not in time." She closed the door behind her. Green sat with his hand on the closed laptop for a long time. Outside the study window, the lawn was still wet from the sprinklers, and a thin red light blinked on the security panel by the door, the way it had blinked every morning for 3 years without anyone ever testing it. He picked up the phone and called Brightline Janitorial at 7 o'clock sharp.
He did not ask.
He instructed. The woman on the other end of the line was very polite about the new arrangement. By the time he hung up, Naomi Carter had a guaranteed 30 hours a week at a single residence at a rate that would let her leave the motel on 8 Mile inside of a month, and somewhere in a dispatch office on the other side of town, a clipboard was being updated with a note that read, "Client request, no substitution, no questions." Green did not feel relief. He felt the old familiar weight of a promise that had waited 23 years to be kept settling back onto his chest where it belonged. He went back upstairs. At the top of the landing, he stopped at the door he never opened. Sophie's name was still painted in green letters on the upper panel where Camille had stenciled it the year before any of them knew about Bloomfield Hills. Green put his palm flat against the wood. He did not turn the handle. He had not earned that yet, but he stood there longer than he had in 3 years, and when he finally walked away, he did not feel as if he were leaving someone behind. He felt as if he were going to get her. The first week of the new arrangement, Naomi Carter did not say a single sentence to him that contained more than 4 words. She arrived at 9 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights exactly as the dispatcher had told her to. She let herself in through the side entrance with the code Brightline had given her, set her purse on the bench in the mudroom, tied a fresh apron over the swell of her belly, and went to work without a sound. Green, who had spent his whole adult life learning how to read a room, recognized the way she moved. It was the careful walk of a woman who had been told by someone more than once that her footsteps were too loud. He had decided in advance that he would not crowd her. He stayed in his study most of those first nights, the door open 6 inches as a courtesy, and he listened to the steady scrape of her sponge against the marble of the kitchen island and the soft hush of the vacuum on the runner in the front hall. When she needed something from him, which was almost never, she stood 3 steps away from his doorway and said his name the way the manual at Brightline had taught her to say it. "Mr. Bennett, the dishwasher tab is empty under the sink. There's a fresh box in the pantry top shelf. Help yourself." "Yes, Mr. Bennett." He had told her on the second night, in as light a voice as he could manage, that he would prefer Green. She had not used the name once. By the end of the second week, Eleanor Hayes had appointed herself the bridge between them without anyone asking her to. She started showing up an hour earlier on Naomi's nights, even though her contract did not require it, and she made a point of being in the kitchen when Naomi arrived. The first night she did this, she set out a plate of pot roast on the counter, covered it with a dish towel, and went on about her business as if the plate had grown there on its own. Naomi looked at the plate. Then she looked at Eleanor. "Ma'am, I'm not allowed to—" "Eleanor, not ma'am. And I didn't ask you a question." The plate was empty by 10:30. The dish towel was folded into a neat square on the counter beside the sink. Eleanor reported this to Green the next morning over coffee in the breakfast room with the satisfied face of a woman who had won a small war. She ate, and she folded the towel. She folded the towel. Green did not smile exactly, but something in his shoulders dropped half an inch, and Eleanor saw it. The third week on a Wednesday, the rain came down hard enough that the storm drains on the private drive could not keep up, and Naomi arrived at the side door soaked through the thin canvas of her jacket. Eleanor took one look at her, marched her into the laundry room without discussion, handed her a stack of dry clothes she had pulled out of one of the guest closets, and shut the door. When Naomi came out, she was wearing a soft gray sweater that had belonged to no one in this house in 3 years, and her hair was wrapped in one of Eleanor's clean towels, and her shoulders had the wary look of a woman who could not remember the last time someone had made her warmer instead of colder. She stood in the kitchen doorway with her own wet jacket folded over her arm and said very quietly, "Thank you." It was the first thing she had said in 3 weeks that was not in the manual. Green, who happened to be at the breakfast bar with a glass of water and a stack of contracts, did not look up from the contracts. He had learned by then that looking up was the wrong move. "Eleanor's been wanting to give that sweater away for a year," he said to the page in front of him. "You'd be doing her a favor if you took it home." "I couldn't." "Then borrow it. Bring it back next Wednesday if it makes you feel better." A long beat of nothing. Then very softly, "All right?" She did not bring it back the next Wednesday. He did not mention it. Eleanor, when she noticed, gave him a look across the kitchen that said, "Good." The fourth week, Eleanor began the conversations. She did them sideways, the only way she did anything. She would be sorting silverware while Naomi wiped down the counters, and she would say a thing into the air the way an old woman talks to herself, and Naomi would not have to answer if she did not want to. "This man has been in this house 3 years," Eleanor said one Friday, polishing a fork. 3 years, and he has not had one person sit down at this table with him for a meal that wasn't me. You know that." Naomi did not stop wiping, but she slowed down. "My mama used to say a house holds whatever you bring into it. If you don't bring nothing, the house gets hungry. It starts eating you instead." Eleanor set the fork in the drawer. "This house is hungry." The wiping had stopped. "My boss," Naomi said carefully, "lost his family. His wife and his little girl. 3 years come September." "How?" "Telegraph Road. He was driving. A truck ran the light." Eleanor closed the drawer. "He won't tell you that, so I'm telling you, because I think you ought to know who you're working for." Naomi did not say anything for a long minute. When she went back to wiping, her hand was slower, and the line of her shoulders was different. That night, Green, walking back from his study to the kitchen for the water he never seemed to actually drink, found her standing in the front hallway in front of the console table. She had stopped to look at the photograph he kept there, the only one he had not put away. Camille and Sophie on the porch of the rental in Royal Oak. Sophie about 3, Camille laughing at something off camera with her hand on Sophie's head. Naomi was crying. Not loudly, quietly, the way a woman cries when she has been taught not to be heard. She heard his step and tried to wipe her face fast, and Green, who had spent 3 years not having this conversation with anyone, said the thing he had not said out loud in 3 years. "It's been almost 2,000 days. I count them sometimes. I don't know why." She turned. Her eyes were wet, and her hand was still on the edge of the console, as if she needed the wood to hold her up. "Mr. Bennett." "Green. Green." It was the first time she had said it. Something behind his sternum opened a little, and he did not let her see it. "Eleanor told me," she said. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have stopped to look. I know better." "You can stop to look. It's a picture. That's what they're for." She made a small sound that was not a laugh, but was trying to be one. "How old was she?" 3 years and 4 months. "What was her name?" "Sophie." Naomi's hand, the one with the bruises that had finally begun to fade, drifted down from the table and rested very lightly on top of the swell of her stomach. It was not a deliberate thing. It was the hand of a woman who had just heard a child's name and could not help herself. Green saw it. She saw him see it. For a second, they were 2 people in a hallway, and the hallway was not a workplace. She was the one who did the next part. She crossed the small distance between them and put her hand on his forearm, the way a friend does, the way a person does, who has decided to be in a room with another person for one human moment instead of a transactional one. Her fingers were cold from the cleaning water. Her wrist against the cuff of his sleeve still carried its faint yellow shadow. She looked up at his face properly, not at the floor, at his face. The kitchen light was behind him, and she had been working in this house for 5 weeks, and something about the angle or the shadow of the beard or the way he was standing absolutely still so as not to spook her made the recognition arrive all at once instead of slowly. Her hand on his arm tightened by a degree, and her mouth shaped a word, and what came out was barely sound. "Green?" "Yeah." "Green Bennett?" "Yeah." "Marlborough?" "Yeah." Her face did the thing a face does when 23 years arrive in a single breath. There was no scream. There was no big movie sentence. She just put her other hand over her mouth and stood in his front hallway and shook her head slowly in disbelief at a thing she had let herself stop believing in. "You promised me," she said into her own palm. "I know. You promised me and then you were gone." "I know. I waited, Green. I waited at the porch for months. I wrote. They sent the letters back. My grandma was sick. We moved to Inkster. Nobody told the post office. I know it now." She started crying again, a different crying, the crying of a woman who had decided at some point in the last 23 years to stop expecting anyone. He did not move toward her because he had promised Eleanor and because he had promised himself, but he did the thing she had done a moment before. He put his hand very lightly on her hand where it rested on his forearm, just enough that she would know he was there. That was the night the house stopped being a museum and started being a house. For 3 weeks after that, things were quiet in the way that good things are quiet. Eleanor began cooking on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, whether she had been asked to or not. The three of them ate at the breakfast bar most nights, never the formal dining room, because the formal dining room had a chair Camille used to sit in, and Green had not earned that room either. Naomi sat on the stool that put her back to the front window, because Eleanor, without ever saying a word about it, had decided that no one was going to be looking through that window at Naomi if she had anything to say about it. Naomi told them in pieces what she was willing to tell. She had married a man named Darius Whitfield 7 years ago in a church in Inkster. He came from a family that ran a chain of 3 funeral homes on the west side of Detroit. The Whitfields had a deacon in the family and 2 cousins on a city council and a long memory for embarrassment. She had left him 8 weeks ago after the 3rd hospital visit with $64 and the clothes she could carry, and she had not told her mother where she was because her mother had grown up Whitfield adjacent and would have driven her back herself. The baby was a girl. She had decided on the name a long time ago and was not telling anyone yet because the only person who had ever had the name belonged to her, and she was going to keep that one piece for herself until the child was actually in the room. Green did not press. He had spent 3 years not pressing his own grief, and he knew the shape of a woman's silence when she had earned it. He did one thing, though. The Friday after she said the name Whitfield in his kitchen, he picked up the phone in his study and called a man named David Okafor. David had been his roommate at Morehouse a lifetime ago and was now a partner at a family law firm downtown, the kind of partner whose name was on the letterhead. Green told him as much as he could without using Naomi's name. David listened the way David always listened, which was without interrupting, and at the end he asked 2 questions. "Is she ready to file?" "Not yet. Soon." "Has he found her?" "Not yet." "Maybe." "Get me a meeting whenever she's ready. And Green, if he comes for money on the west side, I want to know which judge sits on whatever bench he ends up in front of, because the Whitfield name shows up in funeral programs all over this city and judges go to funerals." "Understood." "One more thing. Get cameras, outside cameras, driveway side gate, both back exits. You probably already have them, but turn them on and start saving the footage for 30 days instead of 7. Tell me you hear me." "I hear you." He called the security company that afternoon. The technician came on Saturday. The first time Green saw Darius Whitfield was on a Tuesday at 11 in the morning in the lobby of his own office building on Jefferson. Green had not told Naomi he had given his name to David yet. He had not told her he had given his address to security yet either. He had been moving carefully the way Eleanor had told him to move, and he had been waiting for Naomi to ask for the next step before he took it. Darius did not wait. He came in wearing a charcoal suit that fit him properly and a wedding band on his left hand, and he gave his name to the front desk as Mr. Whitfield, and he asked to speak with Mr. Bennett on a private matter regarding his wife. Green took the meeting in a glass-walled conference room with the door closed and the blinds open because he wanted it on a security camera and because he wanted Darius to know it was on a security camera. Darius was a handsome man in the way that a certain kind of dangerous man is handsome. He had a steady handshake. He sat down without being told to. He waited for Green to speak first, which was a small and deliberate move, and which Green noted. "Mr. Bennett, I appreciate the time. I'll keep it short." He set a folded piece of paper on the table between them. He did not push it across. "I understand my wife has been working at your residence. I have a contract with a cleaning service. They send who they send." "Of course, I'm not here about Brightline. I'm here as a husband." He smiled, and the smile did not reach his eyes, but it was the sort of smile that would read as polite on a security tape. "Naomi has been going through a difficult time. She has a history of, let's say, anxious episodes. She left the house under a misunderstanding. Our family has been very worried." "Your family?" "My mother, my brother, the church. We would simply like to know that she is safe." He gestured at the folded paper. "That is the contact information for our family attorney and for her physician. If you could see your way to letting her know we are available to bring her home, I would consider it a personal kindness." Green looked at the paper. He did not pick it up. "Mr. Whitfield." "Darius, please." "Mr. Whitfield, I employ a cleaning service. I do not pass messages." "Of course, I'm not asking you to pass a message. I'm asking you man to man as the head of a household to consider what you would want if it were your wife." The smile again with the eyes that did not match it. "She is carrying my child, Mr. Bennett. Whatever else has happened between us, that child belongs to a family. And families take care of their own." The pen in Green's hand stopped moving across the legal pad in front of him. He had not known he had been writing on the legal pad. He looked at the words he had absently put down and saw that he had written 3 times in steady block letters the word no. He closed the pad. "Mr. Whitfield, I am going to ask you to leave my building now. I am going to ask you not to come back. If you would like to communicate further with me about anything at all, you can do that through my attorney. His name is David Okafor. I will have his card sent down to the lobby by the time you reach the elevator." The smile did not move. "That is your right, Mr. Bennett." "It is. I hope you are clear about the kind of help you are giving." "I'm clear." Darius rose, and at the door of the conference room he turned, and he said the sentence that Green would think about for the rest of the week. "My wife belongs to me, Mr. Bennett, whether she is in your kitchen or anyone else's. I am only asking once. The next time I will not be the one asking." He left the folded paper on the table. Green did not touch it. That evening, Green told Naomi in the kitchen in front of Eleanor what had happened. He told her in plain words. He did not soften it. She heard him out without interrupting. When he was done, she sat down on the stool with her hand on her stomach for a long time. "He's already filing," she said finally. "That's what that meeting was. He wanted to make sure you saw what kind of man would be standing in a courtroom across from you. So when his lawyer says unstable wife and a reasonable husband seeking the welfare of his unborn child, it sounds true to whoever has to listen. David is already on it. Green. She looked up at him, and there was a fear in her face that had not been there in 7 weeks. "You lost a wife and a daughter. You don't get to lose anything else for me. I will go. I'll find a shelter in Toledo. I have a cousin in Ohio. I should never have..." "Stop. I should never have let you put me on a payroll. I should never have let Eleanor feed me. I should never have..." "Stop. Naomi, stop. You promised me when you were 10 years old, Green. You did not promise me as a grown man. You don't owe me a courtroom. I owe you the difference between the two." Eleanor at the stove did not turn around. She just kept stirring the pot in front of her, the steady stir of a woman making sure nobody in the room has to look anybody else in the eye until they're ready. That was the night Naomi started saying she had to leave. She said it for 9 days running. Green, to his credit, did not argue. He simply walked beside the conversation the way Eleanor had told him to walk, and he asked her one question every night. "Where exactly are you going?" She did not have a good answer on Monday. She did not have a good answer on Wednesday. By Friday, she had circled 3 towns on a map and had researched 2 shelters, and Green, who had known she would, had spent his afternoons on the phone with David Okafor and the security firm and a second attorney David had recommended for the criminal side. On the 10th day, David called Green at home. I filed for the protective order this morning. I want you to hear it from me first because the answer came back fast and it came back the way I was afraid it would. Tell me. Denied. Insufficient evidence. The hospital records from Inkster were incomplete. The photographs were time-stamped wrong by the intake nurse, and the judge on the docket today is a man named Coulson, who used to be in a Masonic lodge with Darius Whitfield's uncle. We can refile. We will refile. But not this week. Green closed his eyes. Thank you, David. Green, hear me. He knows now. He knows we tried. From this point on, he is going to feel cornered, and a cornered man with money and a name does not behave like a smart man. He behaves like an angry one. Get her off the street, tonight, and turn the cameras up to 24-hour live monitoring. I'm sending you the link. Green hung up the phone. He went down the back staircase to the kitchen where Naomi was wiping in the same square of counter she had wiped 15 minutes ago, and he told her in front of Eleanor that the protective order had been denied. Naomi set down the rag. She put one hand on the counter to steady herself, and she walked carefully all the way to the side door of the mudroom. She stood there for a long time with her forehead against the wood with her hand on her stomach, and she did not say anything at all, and Green did not move toward her, and Eleanor behind them both at the stove kept stirring the pot. That night, after Naomi had gone back to the motel on 8 Mile because she had refused to stay in the guest room, and after Eleanor had locked the side door and tested the front gate and gone home herself, Green walked out onto the back terrace alone with a cup of coffee he did not drink. The motion light on the south corner of the property kicked on. Green turned. There was nothing there, just the hedge and the wet grass and the empty stretch of driveway. Then on the bottom step of the back terrace where there had been nothing 40 minutes earlier, he saw what had been left. A small bouquet of dried white roses, the kind from a wedding, brittle and yellow at the edges. A folded square of paper tucked into the ribbon. The handwriting on the paper, when Green opened it with 2 fingers and a steady hand, said only 4 words. Come home, Naomi. Please. Green stood on the back terrace in the cold for a long time. Then he took out his phone and called Eleanor first and Naomi's motel second and the security firm third. By the time the first call connected, the rain had started again, the front edge of a storm system the National Weather Service had been tracking up from the Ohio Valley all afternoon. It would stall over Wayne and Oakland counties before midnight. 2 interstates would close before dawn. Naomi did not pick up the motel phone the first time it rang. She picked up the second time, and Green heard in her voice the thing he had been afraid of. She had seen the call from Eleanor first. Eleanor had not told her about the roses. Eleanor had only told her to put on her coat and wait by the front office because somebody was coming to get her, and the somebody was already in the car. Green drove with both hands on the wheel and the wipers on a steady rhythm, and David Okafor on speakerphone talking through what a man like Darius Whitfield does in the 72 hours after he learns the courts have not given him what he came for. The list was not a comfortable list. Green stopped listening to it about a mile out from 8 Mile. She was already in the lobby when he arrived with a single duffel bag at her feet, and Eleanor on the phone in her ear, and one hand resting flat on top of her stomach in a way that this time was not casual. It was the hand of a woman who had been counting something on the inside for the last half hour and had not yet decided whether to mention it. He did not ask her in front of the night clerk what was happening. He picked up the duffel, he walked her to the passenger seat with one palm at the small of her back, and he closed the door for her the way Camille had once told him a man closes a car door for a woman who has already had a long day. Halfway down Telegraph, she made a small sound she did not mean to make, and her hand tightened on the dashboard. Naomi, it's nothing. I'm fine. Naomi, it's been happening since this afternoon. I thought it was the stress. I thought. Her breath caught and she rode through the catch the only way a woman rides through it when she has been alone with her body for too long. I think she's coming, Green. How long apart? 6 minutes. Maybe 5. The rain was hammering the windshield, now a wall of water the wipers could barely fight. The radio interrupted itself with a National Weather Service alert. Flash flood warning Wayne and Oakland counties, multiple roadway closures. Green took the next exit, called Eleanor, without taking his eyes off the road, and told her to meet them at the house, not the hospital, because Beaumont was 40 minutes north on a road that was already underwater, and Henry Ford was 40 minutes south on a worse one, and the cross-county route between them had been closed at the last alert. Eleanor said in her steady voice, "Then you bring her home, baby." Home was 22 minutes away. It took 37. By the time Green pulled through the front gate, the contractions were 3 minutes apart, and Eleanor was already standing in the foyer with the landline pressed to her ear and a stack of clean towels over her arm. The voice on the other end of the landline belonged to a labor and delivery nurse named Patricia Owens at Henry Ford, an old friend of Eleanor's church choir who had stayed on the line as soon as Eleanor had called her, and who would stay on it for as long as it took the storm to break or the ambulance to make it through, whichever happened first. They put Naomi in the downstairs guest room because the stairs were not a thing she was going to do. Eleanor closed the curtains. Green, on instructions from the nurse on the line, washed his hands twice up to the elbow and washed them a third time when she told him to. He had not been in a delivery room since Sophie. He had told the obstetrician at the time that he wanted to see his daughter the second she came into the world, and he had. And the memory of that single second had been one of the things he had locked behind a door in the upstairs hallway for 3 years. He was not behind that door anymore. Naomi's eyes between contractions found his face. She had her hand wrapped around 2 of his fingers, hard enough to bruise, and the bruises she was making did not look like the bruises Darius had made, because these were the bruises a woman made on purpose on a person she had decided to hold on to. "Green, I'm here. Green, listen. I'm listening. If something happens to me, Naomi, if something happens to me, you do not close that upstairs door again. You hear me? You opened it tonight. You don't get to close it. You have hidden in this house for too long. Nothing is going to happen to you. Promise. Naomi, you owe me one promise that you keep in the same lifetime you make it. Promise." He did not say "I promise." He said the truer version, the one he had not said to anyone in 3 years. "I will not close that door." She closed her eyes and the next contraction came, and Patricia Owens at Henry Ford said calm and clear from the speaker on the nightstand, "All right, honey, listen to me. On this next one you are going to push." The baby came at 4:11 in the morning. She came pink and angry and entirely whole, with a head of soft black hair and a cry that was shockingly loud for something so small, and Eleanor caught her in a clean towel because Green's hands were busy, one beneath Naomi's shoulders to keep her prompt, the other gripped tight in hers. He had not planned for that. His body had decided. Naomi was crying with her eyes still closed. "Tell me she's okay." "She is so okay, Naomi. She is so okay. Tell me her name out loud then. I want to hear somebody else say it first." "You haven't told me her name." "Hope. Her name is Hope, after my grandmother." "Hope," he said. "Welcome." The rain was still falling. The motion light at the south corner of the property had somewhere in the last hour kicked on twice and reset itself. Green did not know it yet. He found out when his phone on the dresser in the next room lit up with a notification from the security firm at 4:36 in the morning. Darius Whitfield had not been smart. He came up the long driveway in his own car on his own license plate, in clear view of the camera Green had installed at David Okafor's recommendation. He did not bring a weapon because he was the kind of man who believed his name would do the work of a weapon. He came to the side door of the mudroom, the one Naomi had come through 3 nights a week for 2 months, and he tried the handle, and when the handle did not turn, he banged on the door with the flat of his hand and said her name twice loud enough that the camera microphone caught it cleanly. Green opened the door himself. Eleanor had taken Hope into the guest room with Naomi and shut the door. The 911 call had been placed 12 minutes earlier. At the same moment, the security firm had pinged Green's phone. The Bloomfield Hills Patrol Unit was, according to the dispatcher, 4 minutes out. Green stood on his own threshold in a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled past the elbow and a streak of red on the cuff from the towel he had pressed against Naomi's leg an hour earlier, and he looked at Darius Whitfield, who was wet and furious, and a little out of breath, and who had clearly expected someone smaller and quieter to be answering this door. "Where is my wife?" Mr. Whitfield stepped back from the door. "Where is my wife, Bennett? You are on a private residence at 4 in the morning. There is a camera 6 feet above your head, and there is a patrol car on its way, and there is a recording of every word you have said in the last 90 seconds. I am asking you one time calmly to step back from this door." "You think a camera scares me?" "I think a judge will." Darius took a step forward instead of back, and Green did not move because the doorway was narrow and because behind the doorway was Eleanor, and behind Eleanor was Naomi, and behind Naomi was a child who was 11 minutes old and whose name was Hope. There are some thresholds a man does not back away from. Green had spent 3 years backing away from one upstairs. He was not doing it tonight. "My wife is in there with my daughter. You do not get to. She is not your wife. The papers were filed 8 days ago. You have been served. And the child in this house tonight is not your daughter in any sense a court is going to recognize after the recording I am about to send to my attorney." "You arrogant." The first set of headlights came up the driveway then, and the second set behind it. And Darius, who had grown up in a family where the police always belonged to somebody who knew somebody, turned to look at the lights, and what he saw on the faces of the 2 officers stepping out of the lead car was not what his uncle's Lodge brothers had taught him to expect. He was on the wet gravel of the driveway in handcuffs 4 minutes later for trespassing on a posted private residence for criminal damage to the side gate where he had broken the latch coming in, and for the violation of a no-contact directive that David Okafor had filed as a temporary measure within hours of the protective order being denied. The temporary measure had not been a full protective order, but it had been enough, and the camera footage from the back terrace and the side door and the driveway had been more than enough. Naomi came out of the guest room with Hope in her arms before they put him in the car. Eleanor tried to stop her gently with one palm on her shoulder. Naomi shook her head. "He needs to see her once, so he knows." She walked slowly and without hurrying across her own living room and out onto the front steps in a borrowed robe of Eleanor's with the baby wrapped in a clean white towel against her chest. The rain had thinned to a drizzle. The patrol officer, sensing without being told that something was about to happen that did not require his interruption, took a half step back. Naomi stopped on the second to bottom step. Darius, in cuffs in the open back door of the cruiser, looked up at her. She did not raise her voice. "You do not own me, Darius. You never owned me. And this child does not belong to you. She belongs to me. That is the only sentence I am ever going to say to you again." Darius opened his mouth. The officer closed the door before any of them had to hear what he was going to say. The cruiser pulled away down the driveway past the broken side gate through the open front gate and gone. Naomi turned around and walked back into the house. Green closed the door behind her. Eleanor was already in the kitchen putting on a kettle of water for tea that nobody had asked for, because Eleanor had learned somewhere in the last 62 years that there are nights when a kettle is the most useful thing in the world. 6 months later, the door at the top of the upstairs landing was opened. The room behind it had been repainted a soft pale yellow because Naomi had asked Green in her careful way whether he was sure, and Green had said yes, and then he had gone and bought the paint himself. Sophie's name, the green stenciled letters Camille had put on the door panel a lifetime ago, was still there. Green had not painted over it. He had simply added a second name underneath in a steady hand with a finer brush. Hope. The criminal case against Darius Whitfield was in its 3rd hearing. David Okafor had 2 assistants on it now. The Whitfield family had predictably retained the kind of attorneys who showed up in tailored suits and made speeches about reasonable doubt. But the camera footage from the side door at 4 in the morning was not a thing reasonable doubt had a good answer for. The protective order on the second filing in front of a different judge had been granted on the first hearing. On the Saturday morning in early spring, Green stood on the back terrace with Hope on his shoulder. She was old enough now to grab a fistful of his shirt collar and hold on like she had decided he was a thing she owned. Naomi came out behind him with 2 cups of coffee, one for him and one for herself, and she handed him his without saying anything because they did not need to fill all the silences anymore. He looked down at the small pale scar above her left eyebrow. It had not gone anywhere in 23 years, and it was not going anywhere now. "You ever think about it?" he said. "Marlborough Street." "Every day." "Me too." Eleanor's voice came from the kitchen behind them, warm and dry and impatient. "You two are going to drink that coffee cold if you keep standing out there pretending to be poetic. Get in here. Breakfast." Naomi smiled, and the smile reached her eyes the way smiles do when a person has finally, all the way through after a very long time, come home. Green held the door open with his foot, and the 3 of them, 4 counting Hope, went inside together. "You know, I think about Green's promise a lot." 10 years old on a porch in Detroit, telling a girl with a cut on her forehead that he would never let anyone hurt her again. He could not have known he had 23 years to wait. None of us ever do. So before you go, I want to ask you something, and I really do read the answers. Who is the person in your life who kept a promise you had given up on? Or maybe it is the other way around. Maybe there is somebody you owe a promise to, and you have been waiting for the right moment, and the moment keeps not coming. Tell me about them in the comments. I read everyone I can get to. If this story sat with you tonight the way some stories do, go ahead and hit that like button so the channel can find more people who need to hear it. And if you want to stay for the next one, the subscribe button is right there, and it is free, and it costs you nothing but a tap. I will see you there. Take care of yourself out there. Take care of the people who showed up for you. And if you can be green for somebody this week, even in a small way, be green.